5, 4, 3, 1. Off blast!
Yay!
Alright. Hi. Greeting, fellow followers.
Yes.
This is your boy, Ferris Billy Nwanda. Once again, hosting you guys with another wonderful Nevicast. Kind of like bringing it down the line. Starting off to my immediate left, we have our new initiate, our new Pete, our new member.
That is me. It is D and J. Hi, DJ.
And of course, y'all know me. Of course, right next to, petting our wonderful, super doge.
Yes.
Is our delivery man, Adon.
Hey, what up?
And, of course, next to him is our master of board games, Rum.
What's up?
And then finally, last but not least, the master of the Edo period, the Lord of Darkness, the keeper of all things that is samurai and holy paladins.
And the saltiest of salties.
Diva Lord Hans, everybody.
Hello, my loyal followers.
You actually, on last week's Nevicast, you actually got a positive comment.
Yeah.
Really?
Somebody was just like, man, the Demon Lord's my favorite character.
Yep.
That was a guy I work with, so it's kind of cheating.
Yeah, why'd you have to spoil it like that?
Because I work to knock myself down.
See, that's where the saltiness
The
comes
salty.
from. So, yeah, let's jump right into things.
Good thing we're not slugs, because we'd be dead from all that salt.
You may call me the iodizer.
It's actually, that. There's actually a funny bit about that, because in Japan there was this one news article I read about this super kawaii slug that looks like a bunny. It has a freaking huge one too. And it's just oh, isn't it so cute? Oh, isn't that not going to look so great when you pour kosher salt all over it?
Is it kosher if it's used for killing?
I don't think so.
Well, the
no
salt
longer
itself
kosher.
is kosher.
Yeah, the salt itself is kosher.
It remains pure, but the intent is no longer pure?
Exactly.
Pretty
Okay.
much.
We can move on.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
And our fearless Billy Nwanda over here multitasking.
yes, I am multitasking today. So, what I'm going to kind of talk about to open up with things a tiny bit is I've actually been playing Splatoon 2 for the last few days, ever since it came out. I'm actually kind of playing it right now. Not really doing anything super important, just kind of wandering around the city square. Splatoon 2 is not necessarily reinventing the wheel of from the first game. It's more of a refined version of it. All your favorite weapons, splat modes, turf wars, all that stuff is still there. The main difference is just that, it's now, you can take it everywhere since it's on Switch. Right now, they're doing a Splatfest this weekend, which is kind of like their version of you vote via choosing a team, and then the more wins you rack up, the more that your team can win, all that nice little jazz. And in this case, it is mayo versus ketchup.
Yes.
Which I am completely not a fan of both, but I hate mayo even more, so I chose ketchup just because.
Yay. Ketchup's good on burgers.
Better dead than red, yo.
But yeah, it's
Mayo all the way.
But, the one new addition they did make to Splatoon 2 is they added what's called the Salmon Run, which is basically their version of a Horde mode. And it also contains the ability to get some of the best gear in the game. Other than, of course, trying to buy it off of random NPCs that you see in your square. So, yeah, it's really, really nice. Single player mode returns, which is always pretty good. It's structured a little bit differently than the multiplayer battles. Relies much more on platforming. Takes a lot of cues from Super Mario Galaxy if you play that. So, yeah, I'll probably have a more detailed write-up in the coming times because I do take my time playing through video games a lot. But right now, my initial recommendation is that if you got a Switch, this is definitely a game you need to own. So, that's my main thoughts on that.
That's all I got to say about that.
All I gotta say.
One thing that seems really cool is that apparently when they switched from the Wii U to the Switch, they got rid of the what's it called?
Miiverse.
Yeah, the Miiverse stuff.
Yeah.
It's in Splatoon too.
Yep, that is one of the things that they did were nice enough to carry over. Because like with Nintendo, they're very notorious about wanting to keep everything family friendly, keep everything safe and sanitized. So they got rid of swap mode, and instead of doing built-in voice chat, they're forcing all voice chat to be through a smartphone app. And because the whole thing is for them, it's about a controls always. They don't like seeing dick pics up on the internet or up on Miiverse, drawn through the deals. So yeah, it's one of those very few unfortunate deals. But at the end of the day, like if you're like a smart gamer, you're just going to be chatting on Discord anyway. So. But yeah, at least the nice thing is that they did allow one of the forms of Miiverse functionality, which is the picture drawing, to come back. And it's really kind of interesting because there's no real stylus ability with the Switch's touchscreen. So a lot of these people are doing these drawings by controller hand. And that is a lot harder to pull off.
I don't know if you're familiar with Destructoid, but when the Wii U first came out, they were heavily involved with the Miiverse stuff. Not anything good, but they were doing Willem Dafoe stuff. And they just called it the Dafoeverse.
Yeah.
And Jim Sterling would just troll, pretty much, I think it was the Raving Rabbits board.
Yeah.
He just put up thousands of pictures of Willem Dafoe just being Willem Dafoe.
What about Willem Defriend?
No one wants to meet that guy.
Everybody wants
more followers.
Or then there's also Willem the Ryuk.
When does that come out, by the way?
I believe in August. Yeah.
What?
August 20-something.
The Netflix's Death Note movie.
Oh.
I thought it was already out.
No.
Well, there's the Japanese version, but the Netflix version is going to be out here imminently. With William Dafoe as Ryuk.
Willem.
That's actually the only part of casting I don't mind in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, like, I appreciate what they're going for at least.
Well, I like the guy that cast to play L, because he's been in a bunch of shit I like. He was in Get Out, and he's in Atlanta, and a bunch of stuff. But,
yeah,
he's not very Ellish to me. He's just weird. But I guess
Well, they needed somebody that was off center. I mean, like, and he does do that part very well.
Yeah, I mean, he fits the role as quirky, weird guy. So I guess he's not bad. We'll see.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, other than that, it's been almost a slow gaming week if you really think about it. I mean,
well, it is still the summer.
It is still the summer. There was one really big incident with going on with the game Player Battleground. Is that what it's called?
No, it's
Player Unknown Battleground.
Player Unknown Battleground. Really, really popular game on Steam right now. The only problem is that their developers are really being big about taking care of the community.
Yep. No team kills.
No team kills. And there's actually a couple really big bannings that took place recently because of that.
Yeah.
The most infamous one happened this week. There was a player who was actually banned for stream sniping.
Yes.
So basically, they followed them on.
They found their stream on Twitch and then was finding out where they were at so they could run over and kill them.
Yep.
Which it's the information age version of screen looking, the dick move from some of our youths.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Which is not surprising, but it's just dickish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then of course there was another player who got banned for a day because he couldn't fit enough players in his deal, so he just killed one of them.
Oh yeah, in the car. Yeah, I heard about that. Guy couldn't fit everybody in the car, so he just killed one.
and promptly got banned.
Yeah, he got banned.
For like a day, I think.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's like from that movie, The Transporter. Just from.
I did hear another one where a guy got banned for team killing a team killer. So he killed a guy that killed another guy on his same team. So
I'm the dude that's killing another dude.
Yeah.
Who's killing a dude?
I'm the dude killing a dude who killed another dude.
Exactly who he is.
So, this is kind of small gaming news, but have you seen the Monster Hunter World weapon trailers?
I actually have. Like, I'm really interested. Like, because it's very obvious they have they haven't implemented a whole ton of stuff from Generations, but it looks like they have included some of the different styles into a lot of the weapons now.
To a degree, yeah. They've kind of streamlined them, and they don't have one that you play as and the others that you ignore. It's just, here's the weapon, here's the greatest hits of it, go wreck some shit.
Yeah, like the new Insect Glaive. Holy crap, man! Because with Insect Glaive, if you guys have played Monster,
Je suis mort.
Yeah. Like the new Insect Glaive, like the old Insect Glaive was pretty much like, okay, I can just let me blow my stick down and go up to the air and get them out. Now it's pretty much like, here, I'm going to put myself in the air and then I'm just going to spin my way constantly around you.
If you know the button command, you can actually do a cutback drop turn.
I was going to say that, damn it!
I introduced the joke to the group, so I get to make it. When you introduce jokes to the group, you can make them at will.
But yeah, and also the new, they got some pretty cool stuff with the longsword too. That one aerial, that upwards aerial slash. I don't know, I don't play longsword at all compared to you, but has that been a regular move as well?
Not really.
Yeah.
That seems to be completely new, and they do have a lot of the aerial stuff, and they don't quite have the Dragon's Dogma jump onto it and grab on it, because what I want to see is a move where a greatsword user can angle their weapon up to be a platform for somebody else, instead of just upswinging people.
Yeah, just upswinging it. Yeah, that'd be really interesting to see how that works.
Because, you could also do that with the fighter class in Dragon's Dogma. You could use your shield as a spring.
Yeah.
And a lot of the fighter classes were basically get your opponent into position. Say you've got a rogue and you've got a warrior who uses the two-handed great weapons. You could launch the rogue, since the rogue is adept at, hanging on to things and doing a lot of hits in a short time, and it worked really well. And I still cannot wait for the re-release of Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen on PS4. Yeah. Personally, I would like to see the full-blown sequel, but that was JP Onry, so fuck you, Capcom.
Pretty much.
More of that salt for you, folks, the viewer.
And speaking of Monster Hunter World, another interesting note is they finally revealed why Prowlers are actually not in the game.
Because it was a broken idea that's kind of stupid?
No, not as much that. It's the fact that there was a animal company in Japan that complained.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, this fake animal is getting hurt, so...
What, does it look like a cat or something?
Yeah, in Monster Hunter, there's always been, the Palicos and the Melanus.
Yeah.
Which are these, it's basically cats that stand upright.
Yeah.
And can speak human languages.
Yeah. And, their traditional role in Monster Hunter has always been, especially when you play single player, they help act as the distraction, can also heal, depending on what cats you take with you.
Gotcha.
In Monster Hunter Generations, they added a special version of that cat that you could actually play called the Prowler. And they had access to their own weapons, their own armor skills. Mm-hmm. They could do different styles. In Generations, they were extraordinarily broken as a result, because if you had a certain armor set and a certain weapon that you got from the Silverwind Nargacuga, you were pretty much unstoppable. I was doing this one, I was in an online lobby once, and the requirement was, it was for the Zelda gear, where you had to take down, a Brachiodos, a Glavenus, and a Malfestio, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And I went into the room. I was the sole hunter. Everybody else was cats. I barely
Prowlers.
I got maybe 2 or 3 blows in. Because all it would be was the cats would just be like, wham, 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 boomeranging across. And put it to sleep, run up, put a bunch of bombs up, bam, wham, 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 put it to sleep, put more bombs up, and it was just like wash, rinse, and repeat the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it was just like I was just sitting there just like, well, should I just like do the sitting down motion instead? Because that's kind of what I feel like I should do at this point.
You should have danced.
I should have just been dancing like, you know, that kind of stuff.
Because normally Palicos and Prowlers are the cheerleaders. No, you're their cheerleader.
Yeah, I was there.
Because they have
cheerleader.
broken the game.
No, you gotta do the Carlton when you do that.
Yeah.
Not unusual.
But yeah, like, I mean, Prowlers were kind of a broken game type, but you know, initially, you know, so when World was announced and they announced that Prowlers weren't coming back, we were thinking it was just because, okay, it's a proper new gen, so they don't want to do anything too broken, kind of like how most of Generations was.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out, no, it's because somebody in Glorious Nihon bitched about it. So,
But seriously, the entire fucking game is about being a hunter who is there to wreck the ecosystem for greater mankind.
Yeah.
And they have a problem with the cats that get mildly inconvenienced after being breathed fire on?
yeah. As long as that cat is not doing any, like, you know, striking down themselves.
Or jumping on bellies.
Or jumping on bellies, like this one is kind of wanting to do right now.
He's waiting.
This is my personal
Prowler.
Prowler right here.
So I'm just gonna perch here and
Not a
take
very
it.
good Palico.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's a million. He's Milan.
You should probably set some better skills on him.
Yeah. He wouldn't even qualify for the Poogie P, like, strongest cat skill.
No.
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
All right,
we've got... Like,
this joke's going on a
yeah,
little too
it's
long.
gone long. So, you know, like... So, like...
Hey, I made my punchline. You guys started beating the dead horse.
yeah, we did it that. So, like, for this week's, like, kind of long-form gaming discussion, I kind of wanted to, like, our delivery man has brought up, like, a really good concept. Why don't you share it with us, good sir?
Well, I think that reading a book and playing a video game offers the same results. It's the same thing to me.
Not at all. Not
Okay.
at all.
Please do explain.
Well, one, you're actually interacting with it. The
Mhm.
other one, you just have to imagine what the writer put on the page. There's no interaction at all.
I mean, there are those choose your own adventure books, but that's
That's a stretch.
and it's still pre-written, like
Yeah.
you said. So
Well, the thing is, with most game narratives, they are kind of stuck in that. But the way you experience them, to me, is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
You've got your perceptions versus what the author put on the page, whereas with the video game, it's kind of hard to misinterpret a lot of that. There's also word choice that you have to factor into it, whereas there's no, maybe there's some stylistic and visual cues that you might have to interpret, but for the most part, I would say that reading would be like eating a meal. Whereas most video games, as far as the way you experience the narrative, or even more so in the ways you craft your own narrative with the emergent narrative of sandbox games, is, well, in story games, it's like being spoon-fed.
Mm-hmm.
In emergent narrative games, it's kind of like just grabbing whatever the fuck you have in the pantry and shoving it down your gullet and hope it doesn't make you yak.
I don't know. I'll play devil's advocate. So this is my main deal. Like when it comes to like novel, like a lot of novels like are constructed, is that you kind of have like, I think a good comparison is I'll start with Nintendo games. A lot of Nintendo games are actually very much gameplay based. There's not really a whole ton of narrative chunks out of it. A lot of what is going on in the game is left up to the player. And I think a really good comparison to that when you're talking about novelizations is you can use it compared to classical literature. a lot of classical literature is very much minimalism designed in mind. You know, with the exception of a few novels like, you know, War and
Tolkien.
Peace. Tolkien?
Tolkien.
Tolkien
Well, no, like,
over-describes.
I'm saying, like, we're going even older
okay.
than Tolkien. I'm coming to Tolkien, though, in a minute.
Okay.
But I would say, like, I'm saying, like, stuff like James Joyce, Scarlet Letter, Nigel Hawthorne,
Charles Dickens.
Charles Dickens, really lean stuff that leaves a lot to the imagination. You're given the very basic tools to be able to guide through it, but, you know, like, a lot of it's left up to you. The only difference I see between, like, in this case, you know, like, the larger point I'm making is that the main difference between novels and between games is that the games, you are pressing inputs into it. But you can make, you're still being guided along a narrative, even if it's a lean narrative, or, you know, you go into the modern era, you go into, like, a lot of our, you know, AAA developed games today. You can make those direct comparisons between those AAA games and stuff like Tolkien and, you know, George R.R. Martin, epic fantasies. You even have stuff where you can, like, your popcorn books, like the Da Vinci Code. A lot of it is, the main difference is that, again, with video games, you're controlling the input of it, but you're still being guided along a story.
But by that thinking of reductivism, everything is the same, so there's no point in doing anything.
Not necessarily. You can play a game because you like the narrative. The same way you pick up a book because you like the narrative, you like the subject.
But so many more people pick up the video games regardless of the narrative because it is easier to just be spoon-fed this visual information.
You can be spoon-fed with a book as well. The book can say what you already want to believe. The same way you're playing a game that you already want to be like the hero. The same way you want to pick up a book.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you digest, like, you know, like Harry Potter is like another really good example I like to bring up, is that even though, like, you are, like, for one, you are being spoon-fed a narrative, but you can also take a lot of the stuff that's in between the lines and interpret it in your own fashion.
How do you explain climbing mountains in Skyrim, then? Because you can't really do that. They didn't make it where you could do that, but people still do it.
Fan fiction.
No, where they just,
But
like,
fan
you
fiction
run up
is
the
trash.
you run up the mountainside, whatever, but you're not supposed to do it. There's paths to do
That's
it.
been in everything since EverQuest. And another thing, a lot of no novels do besides the second person, which is hard as hell to write in, so don't bother. Choose your own adventure is a lot of video games will give you that sense of entitlement, you that sense of empowerment. Books really don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, Harry Potter is a distinct character from the reader. You're almost vicariously and voyeuristically experiencing this thrill of Harry coming into the world and making his mark. But, you know, in a video game, ideally they would have you create your character for this wizarding world, and they would raise you up to be the chosen one, you to be the boy or girl who lived.
Yep, the same way Assassin's Creed does that. You're the assassin. You're the hero.
Yeah, but
But
you
in a
don't
lot
you
of-
don't have to do everything in the same order either, though. It's open world. You can do anything in any order.
There's
With a book, you can only go from beginning to end.
There's a final mission, though.
Yes,
there's
there
a final
is.
story. The same way there's a final story to the
But
book
you
that
don't
we're
have to
reading.
do it in the same order.
But
there's
you're
a turn.
eventually going to end up with the same point.
The end is
which
the same.
I do see at any
Actually,
point, nonetheless. The point I made where you being raised up to the main character is vastly different from you vicariously experiencing another character's journey most of the time in books.
And in order, like, bring it back to the Assassin's Creed, you don't really, if you don't do everything in the game, though, you won't get the same ending as everybody else. It changes depending on all the stuff that you do.
But there is
to get 100% synchronization, you have to do everything in the game to get the whole story.
But there is a true ending, though,
Yeah.
that you unlock. So, I mean,
But you have to unlock it.
You don't have to unlock it though.
Exactly.
But like if you like are wanting to experience everything the way it should be, you will go through and unlock it.
But you don't have to.
And this conversation does bring up a really good thing that I'd like to run by everybody. There are just some things that you feel viscerally that you find it impossible to put into words. Like when Adan brought up this topic, my initial reaction was, I personally experience video games incredibly differently than I do from reading.
Yep.
And it is difficult for me to put into words. It is something that internally happens, and I probably should spend time trying to articulate it, but at this moment I can't exactly. So what are things that you just have that ambivalence for that you find it difficult to articulate?
This question right here.
You got one answer. How about you, Dan?
So, with video games, the way I see it is that, and the reason why I see it as being something very similar, if not the same, is that with a video game, it doesn't matter like if there are different endings. There are endings, limited endings. In the same way, there's an end to a book.
But there is only one ending to a book.
Exactly.
And the
I can actually counter that. Dark Tower Book 7.
Really?
The Dark Tower Book 7 has two endings to it. There is the technical ending of the book, and then there's what Stephen King calls the true ending, which he tells you flat out, if you want everything to stay happy, don't read this.
Wait, what?
But then
That's
what's-
not the real... So what was published wasn't the real ending, is what you're saying.
No, like it was published, but he has two endings to his novel, to his series.
But it was never published.
It was published. It's in book 7.
That's why he says.
Well,
for
a
people.
lot of the times you end up having to rewrite things, and yeah, I can see where it would go with that. But okay, so there is an exception to every rule.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, you know, like, a lot of times when it comes, like, as somebody who reads a whole shit ton, as well as, you know, has played a whole shit ton of video games, like, I can make that, you know, like, to me, I can make that connection of, like, to me, the thing that separates the book from a video game is the fact that, you know, you're inputting and moving the character around.
Yeah, one's passive, one is active.
That's debatable as well. Because when you're reading a book, when a book really makes an impression on you, that stops being passive. It's not passive anymore because that
No,
changed.
you're observing. You're not actually doing any input at all.
If you learn from the book and that makes your life better, then that
There's
stops
no
being
input.
passive. It's not passive anymore. That's my point.
But that's kind of sidereal to the entertainment experience.
That's right.
I think what Jason is going for is the input is integral to the entertainment experience, whereas with your example, it's peripheral. I'm just guessing. And we have gone far too deep for a Nebbycast, so hurry, Billy, make a fart joke.
No, like, well, actually, what I'm actually going to do is, we haven't heard from DJ on this. What's your main thoughts? I mean, like, would you consider it to be, like, with a book, would you consider, like, being able to make that, like, kind of, like, internal inputs versus the external inputs on the controller, would you consider it to be integral to the process, or would it be peripheral?
I think the inputs and all that are very integral to a video game. That's what makes the video game the video game. I mean, the interactivity and being able to have your own gameplay experience, that kind of kind of makes books not as interesting, I guess. But there are things about books that, I don't know, it's really hard to articulate, like Demon Lord said earlier, but there are things that are similar experiences about books and video games. Like, I get a similar sense of accomplishment from finishing a book as I do with finishing a game. I'll say that. But as far as the books themselves, being a similar experience to games, not for me.
No.
Just because with the book, you know what you're going to read. I mean, I know what the book is about, but once you read it, it's a book. With the game, everyone has their own experience. No one plays the same way, and that's going to come to a different experience for the same game with different people.
I can devil advocate that a little bit because a lot of times, like, you know, especially growing up, there are a lot of series that I read, and even though, like, you can pretty much, like, you see the manuscript, so you read it from beginning to end, but you still have everybody who takes something different from that novel.
I agree with that.
Like, a really good example is the novel IQ-84 by Haruki Murakami, which is a novel about parallel worlds and about, you know, connecting with, like, you know, the moons and, like, you know, like, farts and stomach noises.
There we go. There's our fart joke. We're back on track.
But, yeah, I mean, like, it's, like, there are a lot of stuff that's designed to where everybody can take something different away from it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, and I think that goes also back to what Adam was trying to say with, you know, when you're reading a novel, like, the inputs that you may be putting in are, like, what you take away from and what you change, but you still made those inputs, and that therefore makes it integral to the experience, just like a video game.
But then it's not an input since you're taking something from it.
Yeah,
That would be an extrapolation.
Yeah.
And that's how it's not passive anymore. You're being part of the
That's
action
not what I
of
meant
reading.
by passive, though. I mean, I meant like there's no actual input to it.
And the thing is, the novel will still be the same novel whether
You
you
can
got
read it
nothing
over
from
and
it
over
or
And it'll be the
you
exact
got
same.
something from it.
Not necessarily. Again, you know, like with novels, I mean, like,
I haven't been reading the same shit you have then, so...
yeah, I mean, like, it's like I said, you know, as somebody, like, when I read stuff over and over again, like, I always, like, and, you know, it's always a deal of, like, you know, I take something different from it every single time. Even something like Back to the Future 3 novelization, which I used to read a shit ton of in high school, like, in elementary school.
3, really?
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
You know? Like, at first I read it for the cheap jokes of, that's Nay-K! And then, you know... But every time that, like, you know, even stuff like, you know, the Dune series, Wheel of Time, you know, even something like, you know, James Joyce, Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, even something like Edgar Allan Poe's work, like, you know, you take something different out of it every time that you read it. You may be reading technically the same words every time, but there's always you come out of it, like, differently.
It's kind of like watching a movie over again and seeing something you missed the first time.
Mm-hmm.
That I can get behind since it does
It's
change
visual.
your experience of it.
And it's visual.
Well, no. Going back to the novel thing, if you understand something differently because you've had it spoiled or explained or you've discussed it or something piqued your interest so you bring it up to discuss with someone and you go back and look at it, then your experience has changed.
Right.
It's just in the creation of novels and the creation of games, there's a lot more give and take to it. Because, yeah, someone may hand you a crappily written rough draft and go, what did you think was missing? Or, what did you think the themes were? But whereas with someone hands you a beta test that's like, okay...
What's broken? How can we fix it?
Exactly. Not only that, but what worked for you, what didn't. It's like, you know, I really hate platforming, so... maybe downplay that and play up the fan service.
And fix the graphics on level 3.
And stop glitching a dong on that character's face. And we've gotten back into normal NavyCast territory.
Yay.
Well,
gaming.
That's what happens with manuscripts too. You get a manuscript, you read it, you give it to other people to read it, and then they give you feedback. And then you rewrite it, and then give it back. And then
I'm well aware.
Yeah. So it's the same thing.
Yeah, there's an editing process that you have to go through, and...
But there's far more bells and whistles. You've got multiple levels of stimulus, whereas the book, you're just reading it. With games, you've got sound design, you've got art direction, you've got the story itself, if it actually has a story.
Well, I mean, but also, too, with novels as well, is you have to remember is that, like, if you're crafting your words just right, you're able to use your words. You can evoke those multiple stimuli at once.
But that's something the reader is doing for themselves.
That's right.
And it's also like the same way with the game, because at the end of the day, with a game, you're also triggering those stimuli yourself.
The game itself is triggering those stimuli.
Everybody reacts to it differently, though. The same way I react differently to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde than you would, for example, when you read it.
Actually, didn't we have the same reaction on that one? Just go with the joke.
Ha 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 ha. Yes.
So, My Hero Academia was awesome this week.
It's like I said, this is a really interesting topic, and like I said, if you guys have any words about that, post it down below. We'd be interested to hear your kind of feedback on it. I mean, because especially as we advance forward into a more digital age, there's going to be more conflicts about old styles of enlightenment, entertainment versus new methods that use more digital means. It's the old argument of books versus motion cinema, and then folk guitar versus electric guitar, guitars versus keyboards, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's kind of an argument that stands the test of time, and one that should be looked at more and more often, especially in the age of now we're now starting to get really serious about making sure that we preserve works of art going forward.
That's right.
So,
which is a very interesting point, because now museums are becoming somewhat obsolete because everything is digitalized. Thank you. So people are not going to museums anymore.
They're Digimon.
They just look it on the virtual library.
Yeah, they check it out on the computer, so I mean it's a lot easier to see something from the comfort of your own home versus actually going to an art museum. It's gotten to the point to where art museums used to charge X amount of dollars to go in and visit. Mm-hmm. Now most of them have to charge. Most of them have to let you in for free. Yeah. And the only thing you have to pay for is to see the traveling exhibits.
Yeah, the big
because
exhibits.
It's gotten to the point to where a lot of people just don't really bother to go anymore because it's just so much easier to check it out from the vicinity of your home.
Yep.
Yeah, here in Dallas, the Dallas Museum of Art's free, but you still got to pay for parking. And then they have certain exhibits where you have to pay for.
Yeah, the Pro Collection of Asian art is also the same way.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like I said, it's a really interesting subject to take in. Is when you're looking at old styles of media versus new styles. And like I said, that's something I think that, like I said, if you guys have any comments that you want to make on it, feel free to. It's a wonderful wonderful topic to discuss. And now I'm once again blending words together. So moving on from that. So kind of another long form subject I want to talk about. This is going to be more of in the general nerd category. Is that I came across a couple stories this week. One was about Ezra Miller running around San Diego Comic-Con dressed up as Ed from Full Metal Alchemist. The other one was, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of her name, but Lupita Nyong? Yeah. She actually did cosplay in a video series where she ran around dancing all the time like D-Pity. Dressed up as a Pink Ranger one day and then Kylo Ren the next day. And it kind of brings me to something else that you haven't really seen up until recent years, which is, when we think of our actors and actresses in Hollywood, we mainly think of them as being these larger than life, ultra stoic superstars that you only just see, standing around looking pretty at award shows and at premieres. You see them on the big screen. If you're lucky, you might be able to interact with them two shakes and a lamb's tail in real life while you're in the bathroom trying to get their autograph. But, lately, especially with the advent of, geek and nerd culture becoming more mainstream, you're seeing more and more celebrities actually kind of, getting in with, and interacting with fans a lot more and actually being more passionate about a lot of the geeky and nerdy things that they're into. Like, Ezra Miller is a known cosplayer. Like, he likes to do cosplay, actually, every San Diego Comic-Con.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was kind of like, it was really surprising about that. Like in past years, you had like, Andrew Garfield when he was doing a run, like when he was doing his Amazing Spider-Man run, he actually went and showed up at a Spider-Man panel dressed up as himself, as Spider-Man. And he went and waited in the Q&A line and then pulled his mask off.
What was it?
That's awesome.
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan
Put
Cranston.
the Bryan Cranston mask on.
Yeah.
They're walking
Okay.
around. Everybody thought it was just another guy, but he comes up on stage, pulls it off, and it's really him.
Yeah. And then
There's always the Adam Savage ones too, though.
yeah.
He always does these like amazing freaking costumes. Everybody knows it's him because it's so well done.
Yeah.
Did you see it when Henry Cavill did it? I think it was last year.
Nah,
He didn't even put anything on. He just walked on the show floor. No one cared.
Yeah.
Got his Henry.
because he's Superman. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Whatever.
Another
Actually,
one.
remember last year's Star Wars Celebration when they debuted some of the footage from Force Awakens. They started talking about Rogue One. They had both John Boyega and Daisy Ridley wandering around the show floor, just like la 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 la.
Now they can't go anywhere.
Well, they actually reenacted their own trailer in front of all the fans.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So,
And also, what was it that nearly had to be closed down because one of the musical guests wanted to go to the dealer's room?
oh, okay. So yeah,
This about that.
this is an Akon story. So about a couple or so years back at Akon, they had the band Exist Trace come down. Mainly because one of the members, she was actually an exchange student that lived in Dallas for a little while before she went back to Japan for and helped form the band All Nice Little Jazz. I think that kind of played into them actually coming down here. But yeah, apparently one of the band members decided, hey, I want to go check out the dealer's room. It should be pretty easy for me to go check out the dealer's room, right? Yeah, not quite so much, because very quickly folks were able to identify her, so they started bum rushing into the dealer's room. And that also happened to be the time when the fire marshal was there, and they were just like, nope, everybody out. So they actually had to clear out the dealer's room for most of that Saturday.
And that's what happens when people underestimate fanaticism.
Yep, that is very true.
Or people in there estimate their own celebrity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's also very true. Sometimes that does happen with a lot of overseas acts that come over here. They're just like, wait, I'm really that popular around here? What the hell?
Well, you're at an anime convention and you're an anime musician.
Yeah.
No, not even that. Exist Trace didn't even contribute any. They haven't done any anime soundtracks or anything like that.
Really?
They were pretty much Akon's Visual K pickup for that year. Because they started off as a really hardcore screamo Visual K band, and then they kind of decreased that bit by bit to where now they're more of they still keep some elements of the visuals among some of their members, but they're more just straight up rock sound now. But I will say incredibly fucking talented. 6 solos and drum flips for days. But, I'm kind of digressing past my point, But it is kind of interesting if you really think about it, when you have all of these, you're so used to years and years of celebrities kind of having that very solid wall put up, and for good reason for a lot of celebrities. And now you have this newer generation of folks who have no problem, getting right into the fandoms that they're kind of inspiring with their films and creative works.
I think it also has to do with the medium itself, which is, science fiction slash anime / comic books, where
Fantasy, all that kind of stuff.
Where it's more permissible and to be who you are. It's okay to cosplay because that's acceptable in a convention. So you're part of the group when you're cosplaying. For example, Ezra Miller, who's cosplaying. So he's not the superstar anymore. He's another cosplayer.
That is true. That is true. It's kind of their way of kind of like being able to interact with their fellow peeps. You know, even though one of them just happens to be a super celebrity.
That's
So,
right.
yeah. Unless you're Rihanna and your dress game is so strong that you can go to premieres secretly cosplaying as different characters from Pokemon movies the whole time.
She did that.
She did that.
I'm okay with that.
Yes, I'm okay with that too. But
That's
yeah,
pretty
like
awesome.
So, what anime did you guys watch this week?
18F.
So that's your My Hero Academia?
That's correct.
it's gonna be like
It's gonna be a weekly thing, and we'll
Yes.
bring up My Hero, and he's gonna talk about 18F.
Exactly.
yeah. Like I didn't really have much of a of course I had a lot of IRL stuff to take care of, so I really didn't get a chance to dink anime as much as I wanted to. But yeah, I think the only thing I really caught was New Game. Plus, and that's just because that's my joint. That's my show.
Yeah.
You know.
I got a lot of shows I watch every week though.
Yeah, that's true with that.
So out of those shows, I'm guessing My Hero Academia is number one, and then
No,
number
actually,
two.
no.
Really?
Huh.
My Hero is either second or third on that list.
Okay. What's number one?
I'm really liking this show called Knights and Magic.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, it's another shiny otaku tracksuit show.
Yeah, it's one of it's one of those. I died and go to a different world and do
Except
this
with
thing.
this fantasy world, it has mechs.
Yep, it's all mech.
So that's
It's
the
called
only.
Knights and Dragons?
Huh?
No,
No.
Knights and
It's
Magic.
That's magic.
Knights as in knight from Camelot, apostrophe S, and magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is one show I have been keeping up with, that I actually caught up on this week. It's a tokusatsu show, Ultraman Geed.
Yeah, I saw that you added that on the list.
Yeah. Crunchyroll wanted they weren't able to get the Kamen Rider Super Sentai rights because it's just way too expensive to handle, but they were able to get the Ultraman rights.
That's cool.
So they've been actually over the last year or so, they've been adding a lot of the older Ultraman shows, and they're actually able to premiere all the new ones same time as Japan, which is kind of a breakthrough because anime has come a long way when it comes to streaming and legitimacy with streaming sites.
Where it's a few minutes or even an hour or so after it airs, it's already on a streaming service.
But tokusatsu shows are still kind of on that fringe underground, where a lot of times the only way you can get a hold of it is you have to kind of sail the seven seas.
Yeah.
Although with
Fan subs and stuff. But Toei is nice enough to where as long as nobody goes off and tries to buy official rights, they don't mind the fan subbers because those fan subbers help impress international groups. Those international groups go off and spend a shit ton of money on the toys. Yep.
Just as much as Japanese kids do.
Yeah, just like in your room where you have all the fucking Kamen Rider belts and stuff.
Yeah.
It helps spread the brand internationally too, right?
Yeah.
Just a little bit of extra exposure.
It brings in more interest on to the stuff.
Even if it's not the best way to do that, but
it still does it a little.
It's like HBO's stance on people touring Game of Thrones. They don't really mind because it's putting it out there, and more people that see it that way, the more people will talk about it,
Right.
and people will buy the HBO subscription.
Yeah, because that was the main impetus behind them finally doing HBO Go, was the fact that they were using the fact that so many people were torrenting Game of Thrones to where they finally had to be go up to the cable companies and say, look, we got to do a streaming sub model. Sorry.
And
it has to be done.
Really think you might have that reversed. Game of Thrones tends to torment its audience, not the other.
Yeah, I was ready to say. That's what really tends to happen more than anything else,
Hey, you like that character?
No, they're gone.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, folks. So, yeah, you have all this,
I don't know. Two of my favorite characters are still alive, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
You've just jinxed them.
They're gonna
The sword
die.
of Damocles hangs large over their heads.
Yep.
And they have you to thank. In the liner notes, it will say, "Thanks, Rum. We enjoyed living, dick."
Yeah.
That series is a bit heavy-handed. What was that? K? Like, it had literal swords of Damocles in it. And it was-
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, like it was they were giant swords. Like each one was run by like a gang member or something. And the weaker they got, the worse the sword broke down or something. And I think once the sword broke, they died or something. I haven't watched it in a couple years. It was not a bad series.
What was it?
It's called. I think it was just called K.
K.
Interesting. But yeah, like going back to like Ultraman, I mean, this one kind of has an interesting twist to it in that the main protagonist of the show is actually the son of pretty much the most major modern antagonist that Ultraman has had. Ultraman had kind of been laying low for a long time because it just hasn't maintained the popularity that Kamen Rider and Super Sentai have. But in recent years, like in the 2000s, they made a major relaunch with Ultraman Zero, and his main antagonist enemy was Belial, which was the first Dark Ultra Warrior. So it's kind of interesting that they've come and the other thing about Ultraman too is that it's not like it's always still part of an overarching story. So you can watch individual seasons. And then you can, there's still, an overall narrative that connects everything together. Unlike, which a lot of Super Sentai and Kamen Rider tends to be their own self-contained type stuff, kind of like Final Fantasy games. So, yeah.
Too bad your Toku friend isn't here to discuss more.
Yeah, one of the things we will be kind of working on here in the future for Nevi Devil is we will be kind of adding a Toku podcast to our lineup as well. So look forward to that.
Or else.
Or else. But yeah,
we'll all henching on you.
Yeah, so I mean, if you guys get a chance, Ultraman Geek, awesome stuff. You should watch it. It's up on Crunchyroll. So
Henshin a go-go, baby.
I have a question because I know very little about
Tokusatsu.
Yes. Which came first, Jet Jaguar or Ultraman? Or are they the same character or something? Or?
No, Jet Jaguar. Well, I mean, Subaru Productions also handled a lot of Godzilla for a long time, which is why they kind of got away with the Jet Jaguar thing.
Yeah.
But Ultraman actually came first.
Really?
Ultraman actually started, the whole Ultra series in general started back in the 50s with Ultra Q.
The 50s, really?
Yeah, and then Ultraman was late 50s, early 60s.
I mean, I remember the Super Nintendo game. That was shitty, but...
Yeah, the superhero genre has been huge in Japan since it's been going on a lot longer than it has here in the States.
I didn't know it was this is the 50s. That's
yeah,
wow.
And the whole boom, how
how
we're living in the era of all superheroes right now. Well,
they've
been in there.
They've been in that era for a long time.
A long time.
Yeah, because Ultraman was one of the first big Toku heroes, and then in the 70s, it started off with Super Sentai. Then Kamen Rider was a few years later after that. Super Sentai has been the most consistent. Kamen Rider has had to take a few breaks here and there. They took a large break throughout a lot of the throughout a lot of the 90s, and then until they made their big comeback with Kuga.
They had one American show, right?
There was two Americanized adaptations. There was Saban's effort, which they took Kamen Rider Black RX and they made that into Masked Rider.
Okay, that's what I remember.
That's the one that you remember because that one was absolutely horrible.
Yes, it was.
And then there was the slightly better adaptation of one of the Heisei series, Kamen Rider Ryuki, which we know here as Kamen Rider Dragon Knight.
I don't think I saw that one. Sounds
Yeah,
cool.
that's the whole point. Nobody saw it. That's why I never did it. He did it well.
So, since he was a Dragon Knight, was he Dragonborn and therefore did a lot of shouting?
Foos.
Da. And that's our Skyrim joke for this week.
Yay.
At least it wasn't the Aaron and me joke.
True that. But yeah, Yeah, like, the problem with, like, Sentai is a lot easier to adapt into Power Rangers. Kamen Rider, not so much.
Yeah. It'll turn into another VR Troopers if they try to do something like
When
that.
was that horrible... What Japan did to Spider-Man? When does that fall into the timeline?
That was
Actually, that was the
70s or 80s?
precursor. That was what actually gave birth to Super Sentai. Was when Toei did the Japanese Spider-Man adaptation. It was so successful in Japan that it actually convinced Toei to come up with Super Sentai.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's bad.
They make him a fucking mecha pilot.
Yeah.
Yes.
He is
Yeah, 'cause
not
he
has
a
a-
friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
He has a car that he
Yeah,
drives
yeah.
around
And
Spider
but,
car in American comics.
well, but yeah, it's even more pronounced so.
that
And-
transforms into a giant robot.
Oh boy.
well, but yeah, like it becomes a part of his giant mecha, the Leopardon, which he uses to fight giant kaiju with.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's one of those, like, it's like, to me, like, because I'm a Toku fan, it's in the it's so bad it's good category.
It's like the what is it? The Turkish Superman.
Kind of, yeah, just really silly stuff like that.
It's so
and
stupid.
to me, someone who's super into Spider-Man, it is like having your genitals operated on without anesthesia.
Well, I mean, there is an American kaiju character in Avengers comics now. Like,
Oh, yeah?
literally an American soldier that they turn into a giant kaiju. Instead of hulking out, he just turns into Godzilla, basically, with the American flag on his face.
What?
Yeah.
Does he breathe stars and stripes?
I know he breathes bullshit. It's just,
Opens his mouth in a stream of bullshit? Hey, it's like Trump.
yeah, kind of.
Yeah, it's Trump.
Kind of similar.
In other words, he just breathes out Cheetos.
Cheetos. Oompa Loompas.
Yeah.
That was spray can.
But yeah, like, I mean, Tokusatsu is a really interesting genre. I mean, like, the main pillars right now are Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, Ultraman, and for the really adult edgelords, Garo. Which actually ties into Final Fantasy XIV because there was a Garo event.
There was?
Yep, like, you know, everybody running around with the title of Makai this, Makai
Yeah.
that? Garo.
Really? I thought that was part of the Asian Sauce expansion.
Nope, that actually came out before Stormblood.
Well, damn, I missed it.
It was one of those you had to do PvP to get the gear and armor. So, yeah.
Damn, I wanted to be a Makai Paladin.
Yeah.
Slash Makai Dark Knight.
Makai Dark Knight.
Would Guyver fit in there in any kind of way? Or?
Well, Guyver actually started off as a manga, got adapted into 2 different animated series,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course there was, the Guyver does count as Tokusatsu because, you know, they made the 2 live action movies.
Right.
With one of them having
Jimmy
Mark-
Walker in it.
Mark Hamill.
Yeah, Jimmy Walker's in it too.
Really?
He said Dynamite at the end.
So,
He turned
we
to
are
a big
just
lip.
kind of
It was awful.
floundering a bit, so maybe I should throw some salt on this podcast and see everyone next week.
Oh, lordy.
Watch it curl up and come back next week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and do other things that are internet-y. I don't know.
What?
This is kind of your...
Yeah, watch more anime.
Lordy. But, yeah, as,
Oh, wait. Voltron comes out next Friday. The new season.
And if you loved me, you'd form Voltron.
Yeah!
Oh, I'm so gonna form Voltron on you tonight, baby.
Oh wow. Took a turn.
Yeah, the first couple episodes of the reboot episode,
No. It
they're
gets-
like super high pressure boyfriend and or girlfriend. It's like, form Voltron. Why don't you form Voltron? Please form Voltron for me. If you loved me, you'd form Voltron.
So, I started rewatching the series recently, and I'm on episode 7. They're still saying, we need to form Voltron. Let's form Voltron. They need to go form Voltron. Yeah, it's like the cutback drop turn of Voltron.
Performing, making the title character appear is something that they're pushing. It's amazing that it takes them that long.
But they have to put the word form in front of it every time. They can't just say, hey, let's...
well,
it's
you're
Voltron.
just waiting for season 4, which is literally going to be called Form Voltron.
3?
4? 3?
3.
2?
Because they're about... 1.
Yay! We're kinda
Seriously,
down.
though, do we have any further business that we'd like to discuss for our fellow followers?
No, at this point, I think it is a good time to wrap up for this week. As always, gang, we have content going on throughout a lot of the week on our wonderful website. You can also find us on the Navy Devil group on YouTube.
Click our stuff.
Let's plays and all that nice little jazz. As always,
I'm apparently stuff.
yes.
You're going to have one right over your face.
Good.
We got an interesting Thoughtful Thursday coming up that's actually dealing with a video game movie this week. Dragon Age Dawn of the Seeker. I hope you guys look forward to that discussion.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, I will start dropping back in with Let's Plays again once I fully heal up and ready to go. Kind of sprained my wrist earlier this month, so that's why you haven't been
Punching
seeing me.
fools.
Yeah. I was too busy punching fools in main scenario quest on Final Fantasy, so I'm
As a conjurer.
as a conjurer, so I've been having to take a break.
Did you use Future or Justice to do that?
No, I just
Neither.
used
Those
the
are
side.
fine.
But yeah,
We need to come up with nicknames for each of our forearms, guys. This is the important shit here.
True that.
I've already got mine covered.
Yeah.
Actually, they are quite uncovered. I generally don't wear long sleeves.
So yeah, next week, look forward to us forming Voltron.
Yay!
And as always, on behalf of
Everybody.
And everyone.
Yes.
The Never Devil group as a whole.
Yes. People, Rom.
Yeah. As always, folks, this is your boy, Fearless Willie Nwanda, telling you good night and good luck.
Jana.
Next
Later.
time.